Hello, Doris here. Today I'm going to be showing you my journal for the August Assembly Line Junk Journal Challenge that you can find here on YouTube at DearJulieJulie Junk Journal Every Day. And I will post the link below as well as her Facebook link, Scrap All About It with Dear Julie Julie. For my journal, I have chosen to do one 3-signature journal and I've named it Strawberry Fields. So my journal here, this was an old book, but it was in very good condition. So I didn't really have to do anything with this except I reinforced the spine with a piece of chipboard, and that was pretty much it. Here on the spine I have used fabric from the vintage apron that I've been using throughout the book and put some lace over that just to cover up the signature ties. Then collaged on the top here is scrapbook paper, some stitching, vintage trim, cardstock, some buttons I've added with embroidery thread. This piece here is from an old tablecloth and I just added some green trim there. And then I also used eyelet closure with ribbon. And here you can see the 3 signatures. The end papers I have used in the book are scrapbook paper that was in the collection. I also added a library pocket at the front and back of this book, and then I added on this old 1950s seed catalog advertisement. There's one on the front here and on the back. The spine I used my apron fabric. And the beginning of each of the 3 signatures and also in the center of each signature, I used the digital kit Vintage Shabby Chic Strawberry from Alphabet Store on Etsy. The rest of the digitals throughout this book are from Garden Veggies and Fruit digital kit from Dear Julie Julie on Etsy. I used trim on the end here, little bowl pin with some beads. This here came from a Workbasket magazine. I just put it on some cardstock there. This here is a greeting card that I received in some Happy Mail. One of the pages from the Veggies and Fruit digital kit. We had to include 11 elements in the journal, and within those 11 elements we had to make 8 of each, and on 8 of each of those elements we had to include 3 embellishments. So my first element here is a paper clip that I used scrapbook paper, crocheted little miniature doily with a piece of the apron fabric and a little heart button that is tied on with embroidery thread. This here came from an Ideals magazine. Element 2 we had to do were belly bands. Now for this book, because it got so big, I decided to take the belly bands and put them on the edge of the paper. And so I just added it on here, made a little flip. Third element was a mini notebook. I used playing cards that I sanded down a bit to make it so that the glue could adhere really good. Piece of fabric, a wooden embellishment that I colored in with some of the distressed ink, and a little piece of string from some old jewelry. And then the image on all of them is from an authentic paper pad. And then on the inside I just added a couple of my avocado dyed papers and some old writing paper in there. And then I just stitched right down the middle. Element 4 were embellished flips. This here I did on graph paper, and all of them will have at least the fabric, the rickrack trim, and a paper flower with another cutout flower, a brad on it too. To element 5, which are paper ruffles. You could either do the ruffles or you could do tabs on your book and use my sewing machine to stitch them down. I added Veggies and Fruit digital on each with a piece of vintage trim. This here came from the Case 1956 seed catalog. This was the cover to the book. Element 6, we had to do book page pockets, and these are my 3 embellishments. There's washi tape, trim, and then this cutout I did with a paper punch. And this image is from the Veggies and Fruit digital kit. Number 7 element were tags. I avocado dyed, and a lot of them have this strawberry stamp here. And here is the stamp that I used. It's 1998 Sky Kids. Element 8 were envelopes. And on the envelopes I had put this large flower die cut, and I'm going to show you a different example. Here is an extra one I had made. So here's that flower die cut, and they all originally had this music paper with my strawberry stamp, and then I did some Mod Podge over it with some stitching and a brad there. But when I went to put them in the book, just like any crafter, sometimes you don't like things as much as maybe you did in the beginning. So when I went to put things in the book, I decided to take the brad and this piece here off. I mounted on element 9 were clusters. So I decided to put the clusters on top of this flower here. The base was a ticket, and then a piece of cardstock that was a leaf punch, and the flower punch here. I used a little bit of Wink of Stella just to brighten it up a bit, and then there's a staple on there. Just some fabric scraps I had. This one is from the apron. Another belly band that I mounted onto the side of the page. A cute little bag I found in my stash. Element number 10 were journal cards. This one I made it easy on myself. I just had these vintage strawberry recipe cards, and I just put another punch out here with this scrapbook paper, some washi on there, and then this strawberry was cut out from my scrapbook paper pad, and then another staple. And then the last element we had to do like parchment paper, tracing paper, or vellum. And I decided to make vellum pockets. And with each one of these pockets, the word cutouts came from my scrapbook paper pad. I stitched around them. They all have vintage trim on here. And then I also stitched around the whole pocket, as in this case. And then this particular one, more scrapbook paper, and the image from old seed catalog. And so that is all of the 11 elements. The center of the first signature, and this is the digital from the alphabet store. My signature ties, I just put some beads on there. Again, here's another vellum pocket. And this particular one is like a faux envelope because this is paper that you can actually write on. And the rest is pretty much going to be a repeat of all the elements. We could do belly bands and or tucks, and so I did a little bit of both. Here's one of the tucks I did with stitching and the trim and the washi tape. And I just added some old trim, my apron here, and then I mounted that on some coffee dyed paper. And then I put coffee dyed paper on the back so you could do more writing on here. And another thing that I changed by the time I got to this journal, I didn't like how the envelope, I made it so that it opened in here. It's very tough to stick something in here without ruining the spine of the book. I followed Julie's lead on this one. I put one of her digitals over the top of the opening of this envelope, and I trimmed off the end of the envelope so you could get into it from here. More of the original seed catalog. Julie's digital here. Cluster, another paper clip, envelope with a cluster. Here I used part of the tablecloth, fabric flip. I had some rickrack trim and stitching on there. And I mostly used avocado dyed paper and my coffee dyed paper throughout the book. End of the first signature, beginning of the second. Again, this is from the alphabet store. This is an image from a paper pad, and it's actually like a fabric. And if you have been following me at all, you'll see that I had used some of this in the July journal challenge where I did a cookbook. More vintage trim. Here I have another dangle with the green ball pin and this old strawberry charm I found. Another pocket. This is from her kit. I just made it into a little booklet. There's actually 3 that were on here, and I just decided to cut the other one off. So it gives you plenty of room to write there. Another page from the Ideals magazine. Envelope. No problem getting inside of this one. This is from Julie's kit. Another flip. This recipe was from an old strawberry cookbook from back in the 70s. A poem that someone wrote from the Ideals magazine. Another envelope that I cut the end off. This time I used decorative scissors. A little bit of my apron. This is a cut apart from the paper pack. Seed catalog. And I just added parts of my apron throughout the book. Just really added some nice color and carried the theme really well, I thought. Another belly band, flip out, tag, vellum pocket again, middle of the second signature, more beads. Another vellum pocket. This one has image from a vintage wildflower book, I believe. Another flip, corner tuck I mean. Journal card, one of Julie's digitals, scrapbook paper, stitching. Another envelope with the cluster on there. Envelope. This one, I did have a couple little strawberry shortcake playing cards, so I just added that in here. This here, Julie's digital. I made it a flip-flop, I think that's called. Added some writing paper there. Two different digitals of hers here. Another pocket note paper, came from a Happy Mail. That's the end of the second signature. Third signature, again, Alphabet Store digitals. Here's some trim and my last little bead here on a bullpen. This was the envelope for the seed catalog, and it was ripping apart a little, so I added some washi tape in the seam there. And when I needed to trim it off to fit inside the book, and it was perfect because it just happened to trim off the person's name that this was originally going to. So that worked out good. Flip here from the envelope. More recipe cards. Here's a corner tuck that I just changed the position of. Another flip. This one was using some planner paper that I've used before. And I don't know if you can tell, but on here I added one of Julie's little cutouts there. I thought it fit good in that spot. The book page pocket. Tag. Envelope with that apron trim. Old writing paper, fabric flip there. This is on a sewing pattern envelope. The flip, and I glued it down. This is from a children's learning book. I just stitched it on to some coffee dyed paper. This one was a part of the flips because I've included the trim, and there's a paper cutout there punched out, and then a little brad. Center of the last signature. More vellum pockets. Here's my center signature, little beads. Another vellum pocket. This one has a couple of old recipes. Another belly band mounted on the side. Recipe card. Here's the rest of that sewing pattern, fabric on there. Flipped the bottom of the graph paper up and made it into two pockets here. This was my inspiration for doing this book. When I found this pattern with her dress that had the strawberry on there, I just thought, oh, that would be so cool to include that in the strawberry journal, so that's why that's in there. And then to finish out the book here, just some fabric trim. Another little mini notebook. Another book page pocket. Another tag. Rest of that seed catalog. A flip out. Another paper clip. And no, I did not include all the paper clips or all of the mini notebooks because this book was really struggling to shut. So they are all included though in the individual challenge files. This is the back of the seed catalog envelope. Here's the flap for it. This I just added on my own. This came from a Work Basket magazine, April of 1969. Stitched around it onto some coffee dyed paper. And then on here, another one of Julie's digital pieces that came from the Veggies and Fruit. My apron here, recipe card, cluster. On the back here, here's that other library pocket that I made, and the Veggies and Fruit digital. And some cardstock with my stamp on the back. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this journal. Again, go ahead and stop on over to Dear Julie Julie on YouTube, where you can find out all about her challenges. She does one every month. And also Scrap All About It with Dear Julie Julie on Facebook to come join us for future challenges. Thank you so much and have a great day.